So we're going to start with, I guess, the simplest version, which is this version. And to show you the parts we have here, well, I guess first of all, I split this into two halves and added a ridge so that I could print it out easier. The magnets are in orange there. I updated the, if we get rid of these ear covers here, you can see what the inside of the ears look like. There's a lot more going on in here, cavities to put electronics in, and these ear cups have these little holes here. So this ring, you can fit a 40mm speaker in there to be able to hear, and there's a little scoop here, and then you can just hear out of there with those holes because I noticed that it was very hard to hear with Protogens. I've also got plugs for power and stuff in there. And these new ear covers in the back that allow for that ring to still be there for you to hear. On the sides of the ears, these holes down here, these are all for attaching scruff that can be sewn directly onto it. And a lot of stuff just got reinforced, like the back of the head here, there's these clip mounts where you can attach a clip to help it hold onto your head. There's also a bolt hole to go through this spot here. That's going to help a lot with just like the rigidity of the whole thing. Up front, this system's actually going to have two fans. So the first spot here is going to be for a output fan. It's going to blow up into the visor, and then down here, if I get rid of that, a second fan will leave it to go here, and these are like high-powered fans too. That will blow out, so you're going to have like a good stream of air. This little scoop here is just to keep fur from getting out. These gray parts here, so the bottom one's going to mount directly onto the front part, and then this top part will have magnets here, here, and here, and it'll have mesh sewn into it so that when you do like flash photography, this will like cover over your face. This is a plate to put extra PCBs on, including the voice plate. These extra holes that I added here on this assembly will fit LEDs for the voice reactive LED situation. And then this right here is a little socket for a Hall sensor, a Hall boop sensor. These are pipes here that are meant to carry wires and stuff up to the ears because there's like a lot of stuff going on here in the ears. This will be for the main power switch, and there's two of these smaller holes on either side. These are for potential microphones, so that if it doesn't have active hearing, its microphones can pick up people talking and kind of act like hearing aids. And if we go inside here, you'll see this gray here. This is a separate chin cover because that fan's going to be blowing directly at you, and the microphone is going to be right about here, so we don't want wind to be making the microphone loud. But if you take that off, underneath you can see there's a cavity where microcontroller and various batteries and stuff can go in here. And actually I can go down to part references and do analog, and now you can see all the part here. Oh wait, I want this one, yeah. So things are kind of color coded here. And this is just like now including just little blocks and stuff to represent the parts that will be various things. So like anything that's this green color is going to be like PCBs. Anything that's this darker black is like a microphone, or this is a little buzzer that could help you out there. Speakers, fan positions. Then any of the purple that you see is LED locations. Any of this blue color, these are going to be wires that are coming in and out, like the main wiring. So that should give you a good idea of what to expect with that. Do like a front view here, you can kind of see. Maybe a side view, even top view. tried to change around the design as little as possible. So, make things a little more complicated. Now, this head is designed, this simplest version doesn't have a lot of extra holes cut in the front because it's meant to be controlled with the arm controller. So it's probably like the simplest version of the whole head. Now if I switch to the analog version, you'll see that we got some new holes here. And if I enable the analog parts references, you'll see there's a little more going on down here now. So there's these components under here, anything like this and stuff. This is all just to represent parts. It's like these are switches, these are pots, potentiometers. These are meant for controlling the two fans. If you're not going to be controlling them with your hand, there's just going to be a bunch of buttons on the side of the head to do it. These potentiometers here, and then here, and all these buttons and switches are going to be for controlling the voice modulator. Again, if you're not controlling it with your hand, they're going to be there. And then on this left side here would be a knob and two buttons for controlling the faces and cycling through the faces, if it's not going to be on the hand controller. So, then the purple that we can see for these LEDs, there's rings, and then there's the plates here, and they're on separate circuits, and then these ones that are up here in the ears, they're going to be on the same circuit as the plates. And most of that's like the only real changes between that original version and this one are the addition of the holes here, and then these assemblies under here with the ears. So they're a different type of ear. And now if we want to switch to the last one. Well, actually, I guess first I should show you. There's an older version of well, that's the newer version. The older version doesn't have some extra potentiometer holes here because it's meant for an older voice modulator, but I got a schematic for a newer one, so that's what this newer one is. It has like 3 extra pot holes because the circuit has a little bit more going on for you to change. So yeah, now we can get rid of that, and now it's time for the most complicated one. This is the VR one, and I guess we'll just observe these parts first. So as you can see, custom designed headset here, built completely from scratch. To adjust pupillary distance, I have these tooth parts here that you can just sort of do a one-time adjustment, and then different types of shims to move the focal length in and out so that you can get the right length. And obviously this is condensed down a little bit from a regular size VR headset, so your field of view is not going to be quite as good, but it was necessary to get it to all fit in here. And there is a slightly different, thankfully the visor, or this front part, I didn't have to change at all for VR. I managed to make all the mounting points on this headband part here, which is now larger, so I had to split it in half so that I can print it. But you'll see there's two, I'm just going to make sure I'm still recording, okay. As you'll see, there's these 2 cameras on the side here, and if these are 90-degree FOV cameras, they're actually night vision cameras, and there's another spot for a little IR sensor here, and there's actually galleys up in through here for the ribbon cables to go through that for controlling all that stuff. And then on the actual headset block, this is sort of the channel that those will go across. And then in here is going to be 2 circular 21-inch TFT screens. Those should work well enough. And then there's going to be 2 Raspberry Pi Zeros here. So now I'll actually probably show you with the extra parts the whole shebang now. You can kind of see on off, and again, me checkboxing this, anything that is on this selector here is stuff that isn't going to be printed. These are like just to represent the various parts that are going to go into it. So like here's the 2 Raspberry Pis, here's the screens, the second fan's going to move up there. IR sensors, and we have these little heat sinks on the back for it, And then to be able to access these Raspberry Pis, there's going to be a USB on either side with a dual pull, dual throw switch here that will switch the data channels um, between this USB or this USB, so that you can like plug in something and just like use it, or like to like upload it without having to like take the whole face off and everything, which I think will be convenient. And there's just a couple extra spots here, trying to make the most of the room with these extra PCBs and stuff. This will be the actual taint, so you can see it's clipping a little bit through here, but it should be fine. It's got enough tolerance, and I mean, there's the hub panels too. Should probably have added those. And everything tucks nicely under this little bonnet with like, you know, millimeter clearance. I think it all fits in there quite nicely. Just gonna get some good shots here that I can use later. And you know, having the headset there, everything had to move back a little bit. So like if I have the head reference here, you can see this is a large head, and there's like a slightly smaller head. So I did have to move, like, extend this back part out just to make a little bit of extra room for the VR parts to get everything to fit. So like if you compare, let me get rid of that. If you compare the way this looks, if you compare the way that looks to the way that looks, right, you can see how it's a little bit longer, but everything else has remained the same in the front. So the mounts for the headset both are up here, and yeah, everything else is just sandwiched in here really freaking tight. So it's pretty much the experience you could expect to get. And if I add these, well, there's the lenses, but you can see behind that the green is what's going to actually be the HUD. And I mean, part of the point of this is A, to give you like a better FOV, and like fogging's not going to be a problem anymore. And I'm also going to be able to have like a head-up display that will show like the situation on the suit and show, you know, like what colors you have selected for certain things, and yeah, stuff like that. Speed of your fans, you know, voltage, just like critical system information. So the Proto Glove. So how this is designed, I guess we can just go over different parts. A lot of stuff on here is optional, but like this keyboard here, this whole assembly here, you can see the mounts for it. There's a mini keyboard that I made that fits in here, and that will be to control the VR headset. But if you're not going to have a VR headset, this assembly won't be here, and it'll just be this. But the general purpose of it, I'm going to go ahead and remove these plates you can kind of see. And again, with the color coding, so I have these extra plates here that are different colors. The main plates here, the gray, and then all the green you see is just like templates for components that are going to be in here. So down here is going to be a couple holes, right? And this leads onto the hands where there's going to be elastic straps here. And then if we look underneath the finger plates, you can see there's a small channel here for a wire to go through, and then Hall sensors are going to be under all these, and you can see these are basically like caps that go over your fingers, and there's a hole there that will attach it to there with a strap. And Hall sensors act like switches when you get magnets near them. So you're basically going to have 5 switches on your hand, and then on the palm here I have 40mm neodymium magnets that I made this little assembly for that will also be on your hand strap. So you should be able to control like menus and stuff to like change you know, different components of the suit, change like fan speed and, you know, like volume and all that sort of stuff, just using these finger controls. and also using IMU sensors, which is going to be two MPU 6050s that are going to check against each other, so that for variable things that you would normally use a potentiometer for, like color changes and stuff, you'll be able to just move your arm up and down, and that will these will pick that up because they're accelerometers, and you'll be able to register that variation like that. This is just a voltmeter. This will just tell your power. This is going to be another Hall sensor like what are on these fingers, but there's this other assembly over here which is just going to be a yoke that goes over one index finger on your right hand, and that will have a small 20mm magnet in it, so that you can hold that up to the little Hall sensor that's going to be right here behind that plate. Here, let me activate the plates. So you'll be able to hold it up to this little nub, and that should activate that Hall sensor, and that's going to be like the unlock. So in a fursuit, it's very hard to like do tactile feedback, right? You can't really press buttons and move knobs and stuff. So the whole idea with this is that you have this under your paws. Well, this part of it under the paws, but and that will allow you to like control everything without actually needing to take your paws off. So you know, obviously you're going to be moving your hands around all the time, so you don't want to accidentally switch something. So, you know, using your right hand to bring it over to this sensor will unlock it, and then you can use your other fingers to get through menus, and then you just press it again to unlock it. Up here is going to be a Max 7219 panel. It's like 8x8, 4 of those, just to be like a general information display. And then I'm also going to program some basic TFT stuff with an ESP32 to hopefully, that's like a small LCD screen that will hopefully give you information, and that's where the ESP32 is going to be at. And then again, we have the keyboard here with a clip-on cover for it, and it's optional, so it all has a separate mount to mount onto that system here. And then if I uncheck this, this is like the battery cover here. This is going to be the charging port and then the power switch, and I'm using aviator pins for the charging ports for everything so that it's all like standardized. And under here, this is where the batteries are going to be 6 of them, be 12 volt as usual. That's going to be a 12 volt regulator, and then this will be the 3S BMS charger. And then the rest of the assembly, it kind of turned out like an engine block a little bit, because I had to separate it into two halves to get it to fit into my printer. So, you know, it really does look like a bell it really does look like a bell housing for like an engine or something, because I added these edges here with the bolt holes going through it so that I can print it in two halves and have it all come together. And then there's going to be another hole here for the thumb, so you can see these holes, and then the wires are going to go through here. They're going to be sewn onto the elastic, so they don't really go anywhere, but when you close your hand, there'll just be a little bit of slack in here, so they'll be able to pull through. Put that top plate back on, and then like this is going to be the port for the ESP32, so you can program it. And obviously, I have a couple other things, battery markers there. This is my version, so it's got the nuclear trefoils, and it's got the proto glove on there. I did make a couple other versions of it though, just at the bases that I could show you. Well, actually first I can show how, if I take the whole keyboard off, very good, that's all unchecked, and that's kind of what it'll be like if you don't have a keyboard. It's just going to be this sort of singular Pip-Boy system. Let's go ahead and put all that back on. And now if I uncheck the trefoil version, I can show you the version that's the basic version. I can put whatever custom logos somebody wants on there. There's also a version for Dexter. It's got stars on it. Looks pretty good if they decide to do that. And I think that's it for the arm. So what we're going to do now is I also bought a thermal camera module a long time ago, just the module, so I decided that I was going to design a system to be able to house it and have a screen on it so I can actually use the thing, because it's literally just like basically a camera on a tiny little circuit board that doesn't have anything else going on, so I had to design all this around it. So again, the green is all components, but if I just remove the back of the case here and then we remove what would be the screen, you can see the internals here. Got a few buttons on the side and a potentiometer on the side for controlling it, charging port, battery cap on it, and then I added just like a whole bunch of mount points on here so I can mount it. And then the actual like lens area is going to be right here, and there's a little lens cap, but the actual unit is only that big. It's just going to stick right in there. That one was pretty straightforward. So next, I remade the battery bank for partialing when you're in a Protogen. And again, there's a few custom versions of it, but it's basically just two parts. There's this cap here, and then there's the actual rack, and then green. You know, it's going to be the last one I made was 6 cells. This is going to be 12 cells, so it's going to have a lot more power to it. 3S BMS and then the charger. It's going to be a rocker switch there. This will be the output barrel jack, and then an aviator charging port, and then a small voltmeter here. And this is meant to like go on your waist. You just kind of strap it onto your waist. And then there's going to be a coil cord that goes up to the head. So you can stick that cap back on there. And as you can see, we've also got star version for decks, and then just a regular clean version for when someone decides to have their one customized. These are getting like progressively more simple as I go up. Now we have the custom glasses. So I designed these all to fit on my heads more or less, with the width of my fursuit eyes and stuff. So they all fit these standard arms, and there's a few different types here. So we'll start with the aviators. Again, I had to make them in 2 different pieces to fit into my printer. That was part of the design. But I think I did that pretty cleanly, where these are just going to get riveted in the middle. You won't even really be able to tell. So there's the aviators, and there's a little chamfer behind the back on all these so that you can put in some fake lenses into there. Come on. There's some heart ones. I have the same setup, and again, these all mount onto the same hardware without me even having to move them. There's just regular round ones. We got round stars. This is mostly just for decks. Trefoil ones. It's mostly just for me. These ones are fun. Shutter shades, also split in half, but the bolt layout is a little bit different on them. And then finally, some just regular square frame ones. This should look pretty good. So that's it for the glasses. Now let's do the goggles. So there's a lot going on here. So there's several different types of goggle variants and these extra pieces that I put on them. I guess we can start with the controller packs. So there's 2 different types of controller packs. Again, green is parts, gray is 3D printed parts. So this would be a controller without batteries. So this is if you're using it on like a Protogen or something that already has its own battery system. You can just plug in 5 volts into this, and there's going to be a Wemos D1 in here. Main power switch, output cables going to an LED ring that's in here. So, this controller is going to be very simple. It's just basically the module and a power switch, and it'll be WLED, so it'll just be controlled through Wi-Fi like the rest of a Protogen suit. This one's basically the same thing, but there's an additional cover on the back. And if you see, there's going to be a cell stack in there. 4 cells. This one's going to actually be a 2S battery, so these will be in parallel. These will be in parallel. It'll just be around 5 volts coming out of there. So either one, like this would be for regular fursuit, and then you would have the batteries, and then this one you just use the batteries in the main suit. And there's a couple different types of these shells here. So there's a version on the right here that you can see where it's got, in the gray, it's got these two, sorry, that was my timer. So there's these two sets of arms coming out. Optional, they go to these racks so that you can like run bolts through these and just kind of flip them back, or flip them forward, so that kind of gives it like a little more of a cyberpunk look, you know. And then the other version is on this side. You can see that's the clean one, simple. So there's like a simple bezel, nothing on it, but I could put emblems on here if you want. And then this green is just meant to represent that LED ring that's in there. My version's got a lambda, an alpha, and a beta on there. It also had a gamma up in the left corner, but for some reason the Boolean just didn't want to work on it. But I've also got mine. It's got like a trefoil version. So, and then these thread on. By the way, there's actually if I goggle base. There we go. You can see there's some threads in there, so you'll be able to put like a sheet of some sort of, colored gel or something in there, or nothing if you want, since these are going to be fully colored LEDs. It can be any color you want. So that's it for goggles. And the last few things are pretty small here. So we made a new speaker box that's designed to fit these little 3-watt 8-ohm speakers that I have. They're actually very loud, but this is what's going to be meant for like the voice box. So this will get riveted onto the scruff of a Protogen, pretty far down on the scruff, so that there's no feedback. And these tend to get pretty loud with the systems that I use for your voice changer. And then lastly, there's just a couple sets of earrings that Dexter wanted me to have. There's a Helix. There's their new Star Plugs gauges that they wanted, and I do believe that's the whole shebang.